Welcome to Kings of Kimuras.
All right, okay, guys, welcome to another episode of Kings of Kimura. I don't have Dom here today, but I've got Mike with me. Mike is one of our students. He's trained with us. How long have you been here? Like over a year, right?
Yeah, since let's see, it was 2 years in August.
Okay.
So yeah,
time flies, man.
I know it.
And you had like a little bit of background of training before.
Yeah.
You had like done some striking classes and stuff.
Yeah. So I started in say 20, maybe it was 2019. So I was 51. I remember, and it's just right before COVID. So I took, I was doing some striking kind of at one of these like boxing gyms, and then I met a trainer there, Charles Bird, and then I went sort of privates with him, and then he was the one that kind of got me into like, you should consider, rolling and jiu-jitsu and so on. And then, so I stayed doing that. I wasn't really like ready, I didn't think, or thought I was ready to kind of get into more formal training. But I just felt like I wasn't, there's the variety that you get when you're in a classroom setting, especially when you're, all shapes and sizes, all levels, all that stuff. So that's when I started with you, Corvo, and it's been great. I never thought I'd be one of these people that said, you kind of get like addicted to it. And I wouldn't say I'm addicted to it, but I know I miss it.
Yeah.
When I don't do it.
Yeah. People try to explain that to me like you start doing this and you want to do it all the time. I'm like, yeah, I'm a guy that had a regular job.
Yeah.
I had like a regular life. And then one day I just decided like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
For me, when I was a blue belt, actually when I was a white belt, I was like, man, I got to figure out how to do this. You're telling me these guys are traveling the country and they're teaching seminars and, this is what they do for a living.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that people actually made money in it because I've seen karate gyms and they have like a handful of students, mainly kids, but jiu-jitsu is a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it was painful, like right at the beginning. I mean, painful. It's still painful now because I get rolled up pretty good. But at the beginning, certainly, it was like, am I ever gonna? There were definitely moments where I was like, this isn't for me. You know. So
no, I've had those moments too. I started in a gym where they had really two separate coaches that had different mindsets on how to train people, and one of them was if you wanted to roll at all, you had to show up early for class. Because during class, all he taught was technique. It would be like an hour and a half of just technique. There were no sparring, no situational training, nothing. And that's kind of hard to do, to show up early, get warmed up, roll, and then stick around for an hour and a half of learning.
Yeah.
And then the other guy that was there didn't teach anything, but he just rolled. So like an hour and a half of rolling. But he would watch a lot of instructionals, and so he would try out stuff on people. That was really what this was for. He was a competitor. And he's a really good black belt now.
Yeah.
He has students. I don't know like what his teaching style is, if he's kind of varied off of that at all. But I would just go to that class because I didn't enjoy just the drilling aspect of it. And, it needs to be some combination of two. And in the early days, people didn't really realize that. I feel like.
Just like, like tonight's class, I always come to the instructional first because I need it. But then I'll stay and I'll do a few rolls with the guys afterwards just because, you have to have that part of it. And I try to do, probably 3 to 4 classes a week, mornings. And this is really my only evening class. I do the mornings. And some of the smaller classes, 'cause tonight's class is usually pretty big.
Yeah.
It does give you opportunity to kind of roll a little longer or try some stuff out, which I kind of enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to have the combination of two. If you're just doing one or the other, I feel like you're missing out on that.
Yeah.
What got you motivated to try martial arts at 51?
It's funny in my life. I've always kind of like try to set like seems to be like an unrealistic goal at the beginning of something, So I remember when my kids were really young, and I was in my early 30s, and like most guys, when you raising, I had 3 kids. When you're raising kids and you've got life and everything else, exercise was probably not something I was doing. So I put on some weight, and finally one day I was just so sick of it that I just started. I said, I'm going to run a marathon next year, and that's what I did. I trained for like 8 months, and I ran White Rock, and then I ran like 2 or 3 half marathons. So then running was my thing. And so that kind of took me through my 30s, running and so on. And then that didn't happen. Then after that, it was like, all that running back, all that stuff wasn't great for me. And then in my 40s, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do what was big then was all the, the home gym stuff where you watch the tape. I'm thinking of, what's his name? He had a whole series basically that you get yourself in shape.
Okay.
I'll think of it before we
He's
finish.
like a pretty well-known guy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I'm thinking of like Tybo or something.
Yeah, they're kind of like that.
Yeah, similar.
It was something like that. And so I did that for, a couple years and, got in great, good shape and all that stuff. And then I guess it just, once I got to my 50s, I always enjoyed combat sports. Like I love boxing, was a fan of it. And then, so that's where I sort of, inched in on, not to say that boxing isn't, tough because it is, but just started, okay, I'm going to start boxing. And then the grappling part didn't come really other than the suggestion I got. And I was like, God, I don't know if I want to roll around. And the first time I remember when I rolled, the idea that you're that close to another person and your intent is to be even closer. Like if you could be skin deep on them just to hold them down, it was like, that was like weird. I was like, am I really going to do this?
Yeah.
But you get over that quickly. And yeah, like I said, so that's kind of how it was. It was just sort of like a progression of, hey, what can I set myself for the next sort of several years that will occupy kind of something different that I haven't done anything before.
Okay. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know for me, it was just, I saw early UFCs. And at first I thought, man, that's super brutal. I don't want anything to do with the MMA aspect of it.
Right.
But then I started seeing like Hoist Gracie grappling in a gi, and I started training. I signed up for the first gym. I've probably told you the story, but when I was like 21. And then I had a job at that time where my boss was like, well, what if you get injured? Now you can't work. And I'm like, man, he's right. Like I let him talk me out of it. And so I didn't try it again until I was like 28. And once I did it, then once I tried the first class, I was like, oh, I'm hooked. I don't remember like ever taking a time off since that point, 2 or 3 days or something. But even during injuries, I would still show up to the gym with a notepad. And, I was that guy.
Was jiu-jitsu though your thing? Like you went straight to jiu-jitsu then?
No, so there was no just straight jiu-jitsu. There was a MMA school. There was a guy named Thomas Longacre who was fighting at that time in Strike Force. He was headlining some of the cards, and he had moved there from, I think, Tulsa. He got his black belt from Chuck Norris. He was half Native American, and his mom and dad were both black belts under Chuck. So this guy grew up with Chuck Norris his entire life, and he was really talented. He just kind of like was at that point where he was a little bit too old for the peak of the UFC. He was already in his late 30s by the time, this is what, 2009 or 2008, something like that. But he had already kind of like peaked, so he was trying to train the next group of guys.
And was that karate? Was that the discipline?
So he did kickboxing, and he had a huge kickboxing program where I think they had like 50 bags or something.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, there'd be like 2 people on every bag. And I tried that, and I just didn't enjoy it. It was more like, we're punching to like burn weight or whatever. And he had some MMA classes, but he had one night a week of no-gi jiu-jitsu. And then Friday nights was open mat. And I don't think I missed either one of those, And on like Friday night, there'd be like one guy to show up. And the highest ranked guy there in jiu-jitsu was a blue belt. And he was learning everything that he was teaching us on YouTube because he would tell us, he's like, yeah, I watched these videos this week. And it's a good way to learn.
Sure.
But, you know, once I did that for a while, and I told the coach, like I'd done some privates with him on grappling, and I'm telling him, like, I really like the grappling, but you only have 2 classes a week.
Yeah.
And a guy was moving to our city he was a black belt under Dan Inosanto, who was like, he trained directly under Bruce Lee.
Okay.
So it's like Jeet Kune Do.
Wow.
But he was also like a 4-stripe blue belt in Gracie Baja. So, I mean, to me, that was the same as a black belt. I remember when I would roll with him, he would just like destroy me. You know, there was nothing I could do. And so the first time I did a class over there, I was like, this is for me.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that gym didn't survive. I think it was a great, huge gym, but like the location was bad. You know, I'm from East Texas, so there's like, that's not really something people do there. You know, it's like football, baseball. That's huge there, but not so much grappling. And it lasted maybe like 6 months. And I remember showing up to the gym one day and like everything is gone except for the mats. And I'm like, what's going on? You know, he's like, well, the gym didn't survive. So somebody had opened up a Helsing Gracie Academy there, like affiliate program. And that's kind of where a lot of us went after that.
Yeah.
So,
you know, it's, I mean, I think back about, you know, like even my high school. So probably like yours, we had a football team. I played football, tennis, soccer, you know, baseball. We had a real good baseball team, but we didn't have a wrestling team.
yeah.
And I think back now going, would I have joined the wrestling team? I think I would have, you know?
Yeah.
And I kind of sometimes look back, it's like, if I wish I had that background, because you could see how well wrestlers do with, you know, in jiu-jitsu. But I don't know if you had wrestling in your high school.
No, we didn't have any wrestling. There was one private school that was a Catholic school that had a wrestling team. I don't know who they competed against, you know, because there really wasn't that many people doing it. But public school, I still don't think that they have a wrestling team.
Is wrestling more of a Northeast or Midwest?
It is.
Know,
here in
discipline?
Dallas, though, it's pretty popular. I mean, there's Allen High School. There's Coach Best up there, and a lot of those kids that have gone through that program have gone on to wrestle at, or is it Purdue?
Oh, is that right?
That Bo Nichols, that guy, that's where he came from.
Wow.
And there's a bunch of them that are, you know, they go D1 recruits.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's so popular here. Maybe it's because it's the city or whatever, you know. I mean,
yeah, I was thinking like more when you and I were growing up, like probably Texas wasn't a big wrestling haven in schools or whatever.
And I
the
think
programs.
it still probably isn't in, you know, outside of like Houston, Austin, Dallas.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. For us, the biggest thing was football. If on a Friday night, you know, they have one stadium in Tyler, and on a Friday night, like everybody in town is there to watch it.
I even think, you know, sometimes you daydream, like if I was back playing football and I played on the defensive side, the skills you learn in jiu-jitsu would have applied so great in just the way you can, you know, underhook, you know, get an underhook on someone, or, you know, push them off of you in a certain way, or, you know, all that stuff. I mean, it's
We've had some guys that were NFL players. I don't know what their positions were, but they are just not fun to train with, man. I mean, one, they're like extremely explosive in everything that they do, right? I mean, that's those fast switch muscles.
Yeah.
But the hand fighting is not the same, because they're hand fighting to not allow you to touch them at all. So there's a lot of pushing and shoving. They don't understand the collar tie aspect, you know. But
right.
I've done a couple of rolls with guys like that, and I almost feel like I was going to get hurt just by doing something to them, you know, like some crazy explosive spin.
Yeah.
It's we've had another guy that was Jay Humphreys. He was a defensive player, offensive line.
Okay.
He played at UT as well, but he was like 7 foot tall and probably, I don't know, 260 with abs.
Jesus.
And I used to teach his kid out in Rockwall. And I talked to him a few times about like, hey, you should try a class. And I told my coach, like, yeah, we're going to get this guy to do class. He goes, why would you teach that guy jiu-jitsu? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, he's just going to be crushing everybody, man. Like, you're not going to be able to do anything in there. And so I kind of like backed off on asking him because I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. This guy's like, he doesn't really need jiu-jitsu, you know, like he just gets on top of you. So,
yeah, it is something. Yeah. I mean, I definitely, you know, at my skill level, my age and all that stuff, I have to watch out for, like, you know, you think like you see a bigger kid, I call him, because a lot of the guys are young that are the bigger guys, and you go, okay, well, maybe I'm gonna roll with him, you know, because he's not a blue belt, or maybe he's, you know, still a white belt, or if he's a blue belt, you know, maybe he's whatever. You're gonna feel as equal, but there is the physical strength and the weight. Those are X factors that you have to pay attention to, you know, no doubt.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, I know for me, there's certain white belts that I won't train with because of, you know, white belts are like the most dangerous person in the room. I always say that because they don't react in ways that normal people will react. They don't think about like, oh, this could injure me or it could injure my partner.
Yeah.
So they'll move in some weird kind of way or put their leg in a way that, you know, if somebody fell on it, it's going to injure their knee.
Yeah.
And I just make sure I watch them train, you know, and we have like one guy in particular that's a white belt, and he's been like a little over a year or something. But he's finally starting to chill out a little bit, and I'll roll with him some. But when I roll with him, I just don't let him do anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not going to hurt me, and you're not going to get yourself hurt. So
I bet you I could guess who that is. Not on the not on the podcast.
I think probably if anybody hears this, they could like guess who that is. You know. Yeah. So we do this police training about every 6 months or so, and this last Friday was the first time that some of the guys got to do it. And basically we go in there and I teach, it's like a 4-hour class. I teach a bunch of positions to a bunch of beginners. Most of them never trained before. And I show some stand-up stuff, but I don't allow them to like do it in live, you know, just because like the risk for injury. And a lot of them were like, oh, we can't start from the feet. And I'm like, no, like I'm watching them do some of these moves. I'm like, man, you're going to blow your own knee out or blow your partner's knee out. So,
yeah. What do you find, and I'm asking because I got to follow up for this, but what is sort of like the baseline skill level do you see, you know, cops in the academy? I mean, are they, you know, never done anything before to have something, or what?
I would say a majority. So there were 22 recruits this last time. One of the guys trains here already. He's been here for a couple of years.
Okay.
But there was maybe one other guy that had done something before. But the rest of them have, you know, never done anything. I mean, they're pretty athletic for the most part. I've seen some classes, like pre-COVID when they were getting, you know, this was before like people hated cops. They would get 40, 50 people in there. And some of them had never even been in a fist fight before, which I guess there's like a good amount of people that haven't, you know. It's probably strange for me to assume like people have, but I mean, growing up as a boy, like you probably got in some kind of scuffle at some point. But they had a lady one time that was maybe 90 pounds. And we, you know, at the end of this, we do a situational training where they're in a negative position and they have to, you know, basically simulate a live roll without submissions. But we can do everything from covering their face, slapping their head, punching them in the body. You know, all of these things are allowed. And we have to treat everybody the same. So, you know, I think it was a eye-opening experience for this lady because we put Brad, who's like the biggest person, you know, 6'4", 250, to roll with her. And of course, he's not using all his effort, but you know, like even in minimal effort, like what do you do against this guy, lady? Like, I mean, and I think that's something people don't think about when they like go to become a cop. Like, hey, I may have to like deal with a person that's angry and they're gigantic. Yeah. So
my nephew, he's in the Marine Corps, and he was I was visiting his parents, my sister, and my brother-in-law, a couple weekends ago, and they were telling me how he's doing like really well. They're in their training. Well, he's passed, so he's an active guy. But I guess they have they roll and they do stuff all the time, and they'll do this, you know, where they get in the ring and everybody's, you know, he's one guy and they're moving people in and out and stuff. So apparently he's doing real well. And I was asking, are they trained in Jiu-Jitsu? And I guess it's some other Marine. I don't know if you know.
It's like their combative program.
Combative program, whatever else. So I was teasing, and you know, he's a big, strong guy. He's, you know, 6'2", 2:15 probably, you know. So I texted him. I said, Thomas, when you're ready to go, I'm ready to go. He's like, really, Uncle Mike? Really? You want to roll with me? So, but I'm half curious, honestly, you know.
Yeah, it's a little bit different because they draw from a lot of different martial arts.
Yeah.
One of our guys that trains here was a combatives instructor in the Marine Corps. And he definitely knows a lot of stuff, but it's more of, I don't know how much of it you can actually drill with someone, because it's like you're holding them down and like you're, you know, pushing some pressure point or something.
Right.
Which I think the Marines have kind of always had that mindset of like pressure point. And yeah, it works for sure. But I feel like somebody that's knows what they're doing and you hit a pressure point on them, they're going to move in a way that like allows them to reattack you or whatever it is. You know?
Yeah.
Like it's the same if somebody's like trying to grab your throat with a straight arm, you're probably just going to arm bar them, right?
Yeah.
I think that they're definitely doing better than they used to. And probably the reason they don't want to go with like any one program is because they have the ability to draw from, you know, several different disciplines.
I think it was, I was reading a book one time. It was Rickson's Gracie's book. It was called Breathe. Yeah, which is terrific. And in the beginning of the book, he's talking about, I guess he's friends with Jocko, you know, the Navy SEAL guy. And Jocko was telling him a story about when they, I guess, in his training, the instructor actually was, I think, maybe a blue belt or whatever else. And he was an older guy, small guy. And they were running, he goes, big guys against him. And that's when Jocko had this realization, I've got to learn that, because if that guy can take out all of us, you know, and then he was talking about, you know, once he got friendly with Rickson, how do you say? Hickson.
Yeah.
I don't know why he says, Hickson.
That's all right.
Yeah.
I was going to let it go.
Yeah, no. Thank you for correcting me, because half the people watch him. Yeah. Hickson, would when he started rolling with him, he just could not believe, you know. Did you read that book?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. That was a really good one.
Yeah.
You know, what the craziest thing to me about Hickson is he was elite level. You know, I go back and I watch some of his Pride fights sometimes just to like see how much he was so much past where everybody else is at. And then he just quit, you know. But it was because his son died.
That's right.
He like had this awakening experience where it's kind of like, you know, time is finite.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. There was some cool stories in that book. I think one of them that sticks out to me, and I felt this like the claustrophobia that will sometimes take over you, especially when you're starting out with, you know, heavy pressure and someone on you, and you're like, you get in that point where your anxiety goes way up. So I guess he was talking about what was the matches they do? It was where they fight. The fights were like any discipline, and it was all out. There wasn't any
Vale Tudo.
Vale Tudo. Yeah. So I guess he had one of the ones that he did, and maybe he lost or something. I can't remember the story, but he then went back for his training. He had them roll him up in a carpet. You know, I don't know if you remember that, in the heat of Brazil, and he would just sit there for hours, rolled up in the carpet, in this real tight carpet, just to get his breathing and just the way and just get used to it. So when he felt that kind of pressure going forward, he wouldn't tap, or he wouldn't, give up, or whatever the case is.
Yeah. That was actually a punishment that the Gracies used to do to the kids.
Is that right?
So I trained with Helson for a long time, and he's told me stories about, so this one stands out in particular. He had been skipping school, and he figured out like every day, he has to bring this like report to his dad to show he was at school.
Yeah.
So he saves up his allowance and buys like the same rubber stamp the teacher is using to stamp his attendance. And he starts doing it himself. And like 3 months go by, and finally they're able to get in contact with his dad.
Yeah.
Like, hey, is Hickson okay? He hasn't, what is it? Helson. Is Helson okay? We haven't seen him in 3 months. And he's like, no, he said he's been going. Like, I get his report. So they come to find out like what was happening. So that night of the training, they don't say anything to him after they're done training. They roll him up in the carpet, which was like the mats, they were like bamboo. So they roll him up, tie it up, and just his head is sticking out. They leave him there all night long. And he said the next day when they unrolled him, he didn't care who it was. He was fighting any of them. And so this went on for like a week or so. You know, every day they'd like roll him up in the carpet. And that way they knew when they went there in the morning, they would take him to school.
Yeah.
But I mean, he would like piss himself. And I mean, it sounds like abuse. You
Yeah,
know, when
yeah,
you look
of
back on
course,
it. But
yeah.
we're talking like, what, 1950s in Brazil, you know? So.
Yeah. I mean, one other part of that book that I just found fascinating, probably it's certainly in today's standards, very controversial, but, you know, so a lot of the siblings have different moms.
Yep.
And the men, the Gracie men would, you know, if they had a housekeeper that was physically built a certain way, you know, and I'm not talking about, but just like strength and
Right.
all that stuff, that like, literally they were breeding like these elite guys, you know, and I just found like, wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty fascinating. It's obviously not typical, but then on the other hand, kind of like the forethought of that this is what they were doing. They were building generations of these, you know, super fighters.
Yeah. Let's take a break right there and then we'll restart. All right. So we're just talking a little bit about the Gracies and like the legacy of the amount of kids that they had.
Yeah.
You know, the Elio Gracie, who's the youngest brother, he's kind of like, they kind of credit him with, you know, founding jiu-jitsu, modern jiu-jitsu.
Right.
I think it was both him and Carlos, but, you know, it's the two families fighting. He actually couldn't have any kids with his wife. So Carlos, his brother, has this kid, and I can't remember, Holes Gracie was his name.
That's right. I remember
So
that.
Holes is apparently like the best of all of them.
Yeah.
Right. I've heard stories about like him beating Hickson, like nobody could touch him. He was the oldest too, so it kind of makes sense in that aspect. He was just uncontrollable and like died from a paragliding accident.
Yeah.
But once he brought that kid in, you know, the story is like, oh, then my dad could start having kids. You know, his wife all of a sudden became fertile. No, they were like the women that worked the front desk of the gym.
Yeah.
You know, that would become like the surrogate mother, basically.
That's right.
You know, and even in that book, Hickson tells a story about one day his dad goes, "Hey, would you guys like to have brothers?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." And so, okay, let's get in the car, and they drive across town. The lady opens the door, and she's the one that runs the front desk of the gym. And there's like 2 or 3 little boys inside there. So, you know, they definitely had that plan. You know, sometimes it gives me a little bit of pause that like I have their photos up on the gym, knowing there's that aspect of it. You know, because I've also heard that Carlos Gracie was like a nudist, and obviously they practiced polygamy. You know?
They did. Yeah.
But, you know, what they did for the sport is amazing. But I think, you know, sometimes with that power breeds corruption. And it's hard for me to like say that's completely corruption because they had this specific plan of spreading jiu-jitsu. But I don't figure you can be like a great parent when you've got 40 kids, you know, and 8 different wives. So it's a little wild.
Yeah. And Hickson in that book does address that. Like, I don't think he himself like didn't want to, you know, emulate that kind of life, you know, himself, you know. But whoever hasn't read a good book on that, I thought that was an amazing book, very entertaining.
Yeah. He has a second one too. I can't remember what it's called, but he has Parkinson's now.
Yeah.
And in that book, he kind of like details a lot of like, you know, what led up to that and stuff. And that book is really good too. So if you haven't read that one, I highly recommend that one.
Yeah. Okay. I'll check it out. Any other good books that you?
I mean, I think one of the best books that I've read of all time was Empire of the Summer Moon.
Oh, that's a great book.
That's a really good one. It's about Quanah Parker and like the fall of the last natives in Texas.
Yeah.
I recommend that book to everybody. You know, growing up as a kid, we used to go to Fort Parker down in Mahia, Texas all the time. And I still go down there. Like I took Susan down there a couple Thanksgivings ago just to go check it out. And I saw the Star House when I was a kid up in Oklahoma, which is like his, you know, final home or whatever. But, yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah. In fact, that book is under what's his name that does Landman and all that.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
the director. lives in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
I can't believe I'm blanking on his
Yeah,
name.
no, Taylor Sheridan.
Taylor
right?
Sheridan, yeah.
So,
So Taylor Sheridan has the rights to.
Oh, okay.
He does.
Oh,
That's
nice.
that's what I heard. Yeah. So
Yeah.
apparently he's going to put that to movie, which
Yeah.
I'm surprised no one has done before. But I agree with you. That book is amazing. And what's amazing for me is like anything, you probably do the same, but you try to put yourself in a situation like, so you're reading about this part of history where the Comanches were the baddest of all the Indian tribes by long shot, and also the settlers too. It wasn't until technology and the repeating gun came to the forefront that really changed the game. Otherwise, if it was still the musket, the Comanches had them all day long. You know. But just then, and then just that the sort of the tail end of the book is where you really get to know Quanah Parker, and then, his mother was white, his father was Comanche, one of the chiefs, and that guy was a badass, so, but you think about like kind of where I was finished, I thought was, I certainly couldn't have survived in that day and age.
Yeah.
From like my vantage point right now, but like what would it take to survive is
I
hard for us to really imagine.
I think it would be pretty rough, like a couple of days without brushing your teeth. That's the one thing I don't think they ever get right in any of those old Westerns is like everybody has white teeth in these actors, that's the first thing that comes to my mind is like, how do you clean yourself? And most of the time you're not. I mean, you're wearing the same clothes for several days. And it's something in that book that really stood out to me is what kind of like killed the Comanche was the ranchers putting fences up. Yeah. It slowed a lot of their ability to escape. And that's crazy to me that there's something that simple, kind of like ended the careers of the Comanches.
Yeah. That whole part of history, I think there's another great documentary on PBS on just the Buffalo Soldiers. If you ever watched that one.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it is good. Yeah.
There's another really good book over like the same mindset as that Sons of the Morning Star.
I haven't seen that one, no.
It's there's two books that were written, one from the side of the Sioux Indians, and then there's one from the side of the General Custer, and I forget the other general's name, but it's basically the lead up to the Battle at Little Bighorn.
Oh, okay.
And like the tactical errors that Custer made, apparently he was an extremely cocky type of general, and he separated his forces while the Sioux Indians had like one of the largest gatherings that they had ever had. They had gathered all these tribes together from Canada and from North America because they were hearing about the U.S. sending in soldiers to that area.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they had like the largest gathering of all time, and Custer showed up with his forces split, and I think he had like 4,000 men or something like that, and they just massacred in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, when you go back to Empire of the Summer Moon, the one other part of that story that I thought was fascinating too was, so and I forget who it was. He was the commander. He was a Texas Ranger, I think, and then he was, then he was just, in the U.S. forces, but he was responsible for tracking Quanah down and eventually capturing. Well, he really didn't capture him.
Yeah.
They had a truce or whatever that came up, but they became very close, and in fact, when he brought him back to the fort, Quanah said, "We're not going inside that fort. We're going to, you either kill us or we're going to camp out here. It's going to be too demeaning for my, soldiers or, whatever you want to call them." And he let him do that because he had, I guess, a bond or like, a handshake or whatever else. And then he really facilitated his moving to Oklahoma and going to, establishing that. And Quanah then ended up being like the largest landowner in Oklahoma for a while, So, but the thing that's fascinating is that you have two sides of that coin. This commander who spent his whole life, fighting Indians and being very successful at it. And you had a chief who spent his whole life, conquering the settlers and really kicking butt on on the soldiers, and then yet they become like it was almost like the warrior mentality because there's such mutual respect because of who they both were.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it's a really good book, and I can't wait to see if they do like an actual you know, film or something out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would be able to do that, maybe like a mini series or something, because it's almost too much to tell.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, how long did it take that guy to write the book? I think he said it was a long period, right?
Yeah, that part of the story I don't know. I know that I came to it because I would hear it brought up on different podcasts, like Rob Lowe, of all people, was on Rogan or something one time, and they were talking about books, and he said, and he brought this book because it's the absolute best book he's ever written.
Yeah, Joe Rogan had the guy on his podcast at one time, and I think that's how I heard about it. Yeah. And he had been writing the book for like so long. I think it was like maybe his first book he'd ever written, but it was like over a 20-year period.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's so sourced. I mean, he had to spend so much time, going through all the old docs, across, especially the Texas Rangers piece of it. That was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of those like really old documents like that. I used to work in the oil business, so sometimes I would go to these ancient archives at the universities and stuff. Stephen F. Austin has like a bunch of really cool old documents about, the original Spanish settlers and stuff, and like just detailing kind of day to day what went on.
Yeah,
it's really interesting to see. I mean, I think it's almost like a lost art to be able to read it because all of that stuff is in cursive, and like, unless you understand what they're writing, and sometimes it's even difficult to do,
Yeah.
I used to have to take photos of it and like zoom in on it to be able to figure out like, what are they writing here?
Yeah. How much time we have left? Because I was gonna.
Yeah, we got 14 minutes or so.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. I didn't know if I want to get into this topic when you cut me off here, but I was having this thought just today with AI, and I was thinking I'm going to start buying hard books, like hardback books. But I mean, I have some, but I'm talking about like classics and honestly historical books, even encyclopedias.
Yeah.
There's going to be a day when those books are not going to be around anymore.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's all going to be digitized. It already is.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the hard data, whatever is out there is what, AI dictates is the history. Like history could literally be rewritten, and, my kids or kids and their kids may not know half the stuff because it's may just disappear.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's happened a few times. I had a conversation with a friend before where he was like, well, if you think the world is really as old as what people say it is, wouldn't there be some historical, paperwork on that or something? I'm like, well, what if it was all digital?
Right.
You don't think that we've gotten to that point in our evolution where, everything was like digitally uploaded like it is now? And then something happened that wiped out all that data. So the only thing left was like stone tablets, I mean, I think that's a highly likely possibility for anywhere,
Yeah. I'm on board with that. They say the earth shifts its axis every 20,000 years or something like that. So, I mean, there's too much new discovery, that, oh, wow, we didn't know that this, these people in Turkey actually had, these kind of tools or anything like that. There's always like something that resets our understanding of history. It just seems like, and some of that I think is on purpose, and then some of it is just that we're not digging deep enough. The way they can have these radar penetrating or ground penetrating radar now. I mean, they're looking at the pyramids and they're actually seeing much larger structures underneath. And what we're seeing is really just the kind of top of it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've seen old photos of when they first found the Sphinx in like the late 1800s, and the only thing you see is just the head of it, Right. So, I mean, definitely there's, especially in that area where sand has like moved and covered things up. I mean, you look at like jungles of, South America or Asia. I mean, there's temples that they find over there all the time.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think most people today are questioning a lot of stuff, news or or how we consume. I know me, you and I've talked before. I mean, I don't watch the news.
No.
You know, I don't look at MSNBC or CNN or Fox or any of them. You know, I just think it's just getting larger and larger. I think the percentage of people are kind of moving away from that sort of traditional channel for what they're getting the news.
Well, I think that's why you see so many crackdowns now on like social media about what they're going to allow on there. And,
yeah.
I saw China today with their TikTok. They're not allowing anyone to post or comment on there unless you have a college degree. Yeah. So it's like certain topics they're not going to allow you to talk about at all unless you have a degree.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
The positive, encouraging news I've read recently, and I even see it with my own kids because they've kind of mentioned this independent of me trying to push it on them, but they're taking timeouts like from social media. And in fact, what's kind of becoming cool, there was an article recently, I don't know exactly where I grabbed it, but like old tech is becoming like hot. So in other words, kids are like walking around with flip phones instead of like your smartphone. And yeah, just kind of, and then the music, people are sort of retro music, listening to, old music, old for them, still very relevant for us. And there's sort of like a nostalgia that's happening. Like, God, it would have been great to be in high school when you were in high school, when there wasn't the social media, the pressure, the this or that, it was just you show up and you talk who you talk to and you call your friends and you have to talk to their parents before you get to your friends. You remember? So
yeah, and if you say something stupid, it's not recorded by like 10 cameras.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's something is to that. I was thinking the other day about how many of the students that we have that have just grown up with smart tech and internet.
Yeah.
For me, I think I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 before I ever got online. I'm sure for you it was a little bit older than that, right? But like, I remember that dial AOL. You'd have to sit there and like wait for it, making all the noises, and I would get like a free, everybody would get those free hours of internet. Like that's how I got online, but it wasn't anything like it is today. You weren't like surfing web pages or anything.
Yeah, you had to download. You got a disc from AOL. And then you download that into your computer, your gateway computer or whatever it was. Where gateway was, you can buy. That was like the cheapest sort of mass-produced computer you can buy. I didn't have a cell phone till I was 24, and it was a bag phone. It was I was working at a TV station, and they bought us these bag phones where for the sales guys, because I sell advertising, they give us this bag like this. You carry it around. It had like an old phone on it. So we thought that was cool. So you plug it into your lighter, and then you can make your phone calls. You'd have and I used to pull up the light, with this on, trying to be cool. Hey, yeah.
Yeah, the big thing for us when I was a teenager was having a pager. Because then you could like actually get in like. You'd have to go find a pay phone,
right?
Or like borrow somebody's phone to be able to reach out to somebody, but everybody had their own code of like, oh, so-and-so is trying to get in touch with me, So yeah, that was a big thing for us. I don't remember when I got my first cell phone. I must have been like, in my 20s, but it was like it was flip phone.
Yeah.
Maybe I was like 20 or 21 or something, but they were not like what they are now.
Yeah. I mean, after the bag phone, we had the big brick.
Right.
So I did have one of
like
those.
The one on Wall Street.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I know we sound like two old dudes reminiscing, but it's kind of funny. I mean, it is funny to kind of think back on about all that.
That cell phone probably had better coverage than what we have now.
It's the one piece of technology they haven't fixed. You still have drop calls.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I those satellite phones, kind of still remind me of those like big giant phones.
Yeah. Have you got one of those satellite phones? Have you thought about it?
I don't know if I want one. I mean, I guess it would be good if something happened, but I use like Faraday bags when I'm at home and I'm not using the phone. I throw my computer and stuff in there. I just always assume that it's like listening to me, which it is. If you're in the other room and you talk about something, you get ads for it. So, Yeah, that's the route that I've gone.
Yeah, I have a CB,
Okay.
you know, at my little farm, my cabin. But I'm thinking of getting a hand radio?
Ham radio?
Ham
Yeah.
radio license. Yeah. Thinking of taking that.
Yeah, that's cool.
My wife's, if she ever watches that, she's going to hit me with a head. But yeah, I've been thinking about that because, you know, ham radio, it's global coverage.
Right.
I mean, there are times where, depending on the night, you can hear someone from, you know, Russia talking, you know.
Yeah, I had a friend growing up. He had one in his bedroom. And we would get on there and like mess with truck drivers and stuff. I mean, it was so much fun. They would yell at us like, "Get off here, kid!" But yeah, it was a lot of fun. You know, my dad had a CB in the car growing up. You know, and I've considered getting one of those for my truck just to kind of have. You know, it's just like another little gadget thing. But yeah, it's definitely interesting to look into that.
Yeah. I mean, all that old tech, I think, can be still relevant, you know, depending on how you want to, you know, use it. I mean, there's a lot of programming that comes through ham, weather, different things, but you know, I'm sure it's just be fun. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like people don't listen to the radio that much, right? But it doesn't mean that it's still not useful, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's we got like 5 minutes left, so we can wrap it and we get ready for this class. I appreciate you joining us, and you know, make sure you guys like and subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, all the social media platforms.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks
man.
guys.
And that's a wrap for today's Kings of Kimuras episode. Thanks for joining us on this epic journey. Remember to keep training, stay curious, and always be ready for the next adventure. Until next time, keep your guards up and your minds open.